Alright, yet again, Unto the Breach. Turn 16 as Nazca, and no, going well, going well. So, big event list, we'll slide through that quickly, and then we'll get back to the campaign. So, 2 Death Gems from use. Death Gems are valuable to us. Caller to the Black Fate, the Enkidu commander has claimed the Throne of Gaia. So, this means that this throne down here, which we've scouted and can now confirm Uruk owns, is the Throne of Gaia. Now that's really significant for us, probably a lot more than for most nations, because the Throne of Gaia, which is coincidentally the first throne that has been claimed this game, gives +2 growth scales. Now, I would bet that just about everyone in this game, including Ashdod, but not including the pop kills, but they don't really benefit that much anyway, or maybe Asphodel, have taken growth 3. I, however, have taken neutral growth scales, and growth has a massive effect both on your total income, so it's a raw income scale, and also whether or not your population compounds and thus your income compounds over time. So, this province just became a really significant mid-term strategic goal for us, so worth noting. We summoned Condors, Proclamation from Man, New Prophet, Proclamation from Ulm, Cesare Borgia is a new prophet, Black Lord, so not a mage, just a thuggy human cavalry commander. And then we had a series of battles. Bara. So Bara, this is northwest of Pythium. And this was part of our campaign to, I suppose, spread out after we took the Pythian fortress and take as much of the land in the former Pythian Empire as soon as possible. Now, this province has a mixture of D1 and D2 / Blood Circle Masters and Conjurers, and they are skelly spamming, as well as a collection of human troops. The human troops here are actually plate armoured short bow archers, but you know, in the end of the day, that's not going to matter to us because we're going to do the same thing as we always do. Really wish we could free blood slaves rather than just massacring them alongside their masters, but you know, bird's got to do what a bird's got to do. Hart and Runa stick at the front and take all the arrows, while the Sacred Group at the back kills all the mages, then the last of the commanders, and moves on to all the infantry, which they mow down after they have routed as normal, because prisoners are not a thing in Nazca. So we lose 2 Condors and 9 slaves, only care about the Condors, don't care about the slaves, took the province. Grey Forest, which one was this? Yes. Okay, so this is on the border with Ermor, and this was just where we sent our small raiding group to hit what we expected to just be Pythian PD. And it turned out to be a reasonable amount of Pythian PD, but Pythian BD nonetheless. We jumped on the troops, lanced a bunch of them, and because of the damage that we did in the initial attack, managed to do enough damage to then drive them off the field and kill them on the route. So, very small force that we sent in, and yet we lost only 1 spearman, because woodsmen are not great if you jump on them with lancers. Who would have thunk it? There was a battle in Belfields, which is the Anunnaki taking that town province that I said I wanted to try and get them warded off, but in the end I couldn't. Did convince them not to take the throne, however, so that was important. We moved into Gueladon, which was the province which last turn, which was taken 2 turns ago by the Pythian army, and again they just left a force of PD behind, which we killed using a small lance raiding group. So again, more of this efficient territory control sort of operation. Then we scouted a couple of battles. Uldgold. So this is in the far east, where we were just scouting to see what was going on near the border with Ulm, and it looks like Ulm is finally cleaning up the area around their cap with a mixture of black steel flails and guardians. Now barbarians hit really hard, so barbarians are one of the few groups of independents that can hurt Ulmish infantry, but Ulmish infantry are nonetheless quite tough. So 28 barbarians down for 4 Ulmish troops, and yet these guys only cost 10 gold. So efficient expansion for Ulm, if a little bit delayed, and then of course our Apu ran in and died. Furia. So Furia is the wasteland province near Ashdod, and we're taking it as we're basically expanding up in that direction now. As we can see, Ashdod is in trouble. So this is a fully developed slave group, and then a core of sacred. So this is a close to an Inca's command limit of troops. we brought extra Hartun Runa to soak up the arrows, and then the Sacred's just, yeah. Fast forward makes it look more dramatic than it is, but it's still pretty scary. We took control of Tyrannia, where we met no resistance, which is the province that Pythium was in, as I think Pythium has taken previously. We scouted the Jaguar tribe, and by scouted I mean we just sacrificed our commander because we want more slaves. And then we saw there was a battle in Ashdod, and this happened. We'll watch it, even though I just showed you the conclusion, because it shows us how Urmor has been beating Ashdod. So what we have is a group of Solus, and then a sparse-line group of crappy Long Dead, and then in the back, ghouls, presumably to keep them out of harm's way for siege purposes, but also to bulk out this force, and then a group of Lictors, and the Lictors are blessed, as we've shown you before. So, what happens is, the Anakites bless up. Regeneration, Blood Bond, Fortitude, decent stats. Tough. They come forward. They hit the front row of Undead, and then the Lictors are in them. And the Lictors do so much damage. And you can see the Blood Bond is spreading that damage out. But for every giant that falls, the total ability of the Blood Bond to deal with 3 units throwing 229 damage attacks per turn decreases. And the giants just get cut down. It's too much damage. It's too much damage for too few giants. And even when Holy Avenger goes off and kills some chaff at the end, who really cares? 8 ghouls, 3 Solus, 10 Long Dead, for 5 130 gold Sheshai Anakites, and 1 305 gold Adon. I think that's the death knell of Ashdod right there. Their capital is back under siege. Presumably the ghouls will eventually break it, and they will storm relatively soon. Battle in Equestria. So let's get a sense of where all these battles were. So the Pythian army is in Scarce Hope Waste. We've recaptured a lot of the territory they previously held over here. We took back Tyrannia, which they didn't leave any defense in. And we started spreading out. So we took this province near the Pythian capital. We moved on to Equestria and have now breached it, I believe. And we basically mopped up a significant part of the Pythian Empire. Unexpected events, Order +2 and Adventurer, handful of Acorns, Wounded Mage, good collection of gems. Good collection of gems. Always happy to see events like this. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 22. 22 gems. And again, is this happening? Yeah, this is happening in Pythium, where our Misfortune and Drain Scales are not applicable. Love it. 1 nature gem for a unit cursed, I'll take it. And then Worldwide Growth 1. Thank you, Auric. I appreciate that. It means nothing for most of you. It definitely means something for me. And Equestria is breached. So, where are we at and what is happening? So, let's go northeast and then we'll talk about the Pythian front. Ashdod is essentially collapsed. I talked to Jacklaw and he has agreed to release me from my nap. I've also told Urmor that I'm coming in and I'm occupying these provinces at a bare minimum in order to establish like a safe space between us. That is something Urmor will not contest. I think they understand the logic behind it. So I am moving to establish a front essentially by mutual consent as quickly as possible. So we've got slave groups coming in to take Ripewoods. We're moving our sacred group over here to Griffa. And we're moving a group of Supaya underwater to take 236. The goal there is then to roll up 237 and eventually bring the Supaya over here to reinforce, while this sacred group grabs this throne here, because I don't know what sort of throne it is, but it's there. It's a natural extension of my empire. I can't see Shiniyama flags. I can't see Yisian flags, so we'll go here. And if this is free, we'll take that and fort that. And we'll get a defensive perimeter that includes a fort here and a fort on the throne. And with that, we should have a relatively secure border with Urmor, as long as we are able to police these water provinces. So that's what's happening over there. Down in the southeast, we're bringing the Pythians on land because they patrolled down the unrest and brought the province up to 123 income. That's probably the best it'll ever be, because as soon as our dominion goes there, the scales will get crummy. But we'll just bring them on land, patrol down the unrest here. Don't care too much if the Ichthyids get disease. It's probably a good way to cut the upkeep from them. So bring them on shore, patrol things down, keep suiciding commanders for more slave generation. With this army, so this is the Pythian death stack, which includes their Great White Bull. So desertions are now happening every turn. Every non-sacred unit will probably be leaving them because they have no money left. We don't know where this will go. Likely options include Helmshire, Forest of Springs, or back to Terrania, but really they have a lot of options they could go to. They can't cross the river to here, and they probably don't think they can beat our capital defences. So I reckon they'll go everywhere but the capital, but we're still building up a new force with Condor summoning in the capital to be ready for them. I don't particularly mind wherever it goes. We're just going to bring a small force behind it, take the province as it leaves it, shadow them, see where they end up, and eventually we'll try and catch them when the opportunity presents itself. But for the moment, I'm happy to let this army continue to raid around in my homelands while I just continue expanding, cleaning up, taking their infrastructure, and generally allow their continued existence to hold up their good scales around here, because these are all their Pimperella Zucker Schnutz Dominion candles rather than Ermor's, so I'm happy for those to stay there. Once Ermor starts to wear those down, I'm happy to put Pythium out of its misery and replace these with my own candles, but for the moment I don't have the money or the space for a temple in order to do so. In the west, we're sort of pausing most military operations except for this storm for a turn. So this army here, which you'll remember is our cracking big powerful stack, is going to storm and take Questra. That'll add to our income, adds more infrastructure, like good. Not sure if there's a lab there, hope there is, because at this point we're creating economies by not building our own infrastructure. Instead we're taking other people's. We're upgrading some stuff at home, but really I'm relying on making economies by taking other people's fortresses at this point. What we're doing is we're going to send in some suicide Apu onto this throne, because even though this looks lightly defended, you can bet that since it's a throne there might be some magic there, and magic is dangerous. So depending on what we scout there, next turn we can send these two sacred stacks in. For the moment we'll get a site search in. Other than that, watching closely what happens with this Urikian stack and where they go with their troops. We're watching closely on this border over here. As you can see, we're moving more scouts down to have a look at what Scalaria's got going on, and we're passing this intelligence back to GC as we have it, and starting to piece together what's going on around here. So we've also made contact with Bandar Log now. That's positive. We'll see what happens on that front, but it does encourage me because it means Scalaria is more contained than I was worried they might be, because Bandar Log is here. I was worried Scalaria ran all the way out that way. It doesn't, which is a good thing for everyone involved. Final step for this turn, construction. Akla for research. Royal Mulkey. So this is going to be our second site searcher. I'm not finding enough gems yet, even though I'm searching with a bunch of stuff. So we're going to get a second site searcher out and start sweeping west towards the Pythian side of the empire. More suicide Apus, and then we've got the same thing going on in Pythium. So we should start creating another slave recruitment base in Pythium, which will allow us to resupply our forces with non-sacred units out here in the west, which could be really significant given we now have this long border with Ermor and a long border with Uruk, and we're generally very thin and long at the moment, which means massively long frontage. Normally that would be a terrible idea, but when you're more mobile than your opponents, we can respond better to this than others, but I'd still like to consolidate away from this at some point. In any case, that's it for the turn. See what comes up next. Cheers. Alright, turn 17 of YetAgainUntoTheBreach. Let's jump in. So a messenger has arrived from Ys, and this is a big diplomatic development this turn. What this essentially boils down to is that Ys has decided to now formally declare war on Atlantis. So Relay and Atlantis, I've learned, were already in a war. Relay is all the way up here over this huge lake. Ys was not a formal belligerent, but was always friendly with Relay, and they had plans together, I believe. Ys is now formally committed to that war. So Atlantis is now stuck in the middle of a double team. We'll see what happens. We will follow that closely. More condors, and we found some magic sites for once. So we found a hidden monastery. This is not a gem site. That's unfortunate. Decreases unrest in a 39 income province. Look, you know, it's better than nothing. You can recruit, what was it? Priests? Yay. Okay, go you. Let's see if the other one was better. Gardener Pearls, there we go. 2 Astral Pearls per turn. I love Astral Pearls because they're moderately universal. We can alchemize them into other things, which we aren't doing this turn. We're just going to wait for the air gems to roll up because I really like pearls. But nonetheless, good to have that extra 2 income. Coupled with the fact that we took 5 from Pythium, where we've had a 7 pearl per turn injection over the last few terms. Now, Pythium split up their forces. Some of them went southwest into Helmshire, and that was pretty much their infantry and a small collection of mages. And of course, we only had PD here, so we jumped in, did what we could, but ultimately, just like the bad old days, you can't counter this many infantry with very few flyers, so we just died. And then they sent probably the more dangerous force back northwest, namely their god and a couple of infantry. And their god is definitely the scarier part of all of this. Still vulnerable to our sacreds, but more capable of independent operation, and most importantly, it won't leave because it's not paying itself. It's kind of committed to the godhood thing at this point, so it can't exactly quit and go home to the wife and kids. So, we lost Helmshire and Tyrannia. We attacked Boat-Eater, which was the underwater province, and here we had our typical underwater experience, which is we sent Supaya in. Oh, there they are. Sorry, you missed them getting massacred. Anyway, we sent Supaya in. One Supaya didn't come out, everything else died. Hooray. We moved into Asphodel without much resistance. We took Ripewoods and we took Griffa, where unfortunately there was still a Rephite Sage there, so sad about that. Battle in Salt Plains. This is where Ermor is cleaning up the wider Ashdodian Empire. However, important note, you'd think this would be Ashdod's natural territory. Calum is over here. Calum stretches from 308 to, I believe, 120. Calum is a significant power. Nasagen is rolling the military-industrial complex into high gear. So we'll see what happens there. Then we had a number of scout/attacks on independence. So we scouted the throne. The throne did indeed include mages. Wizard with water and astral. Fire and water. Water and death. Couple of gems. Look, this is all something, but nothing that's going to stop us going in. So that was that. Misty Forest. Again, more suicide. Suicide. And did that one. Oh, and then we stormed the Fortress Equestria. And again, there was very little in here. So we just had to take the slings to the face, jump, and then start the process of killing everything on the walls. Which eventually we accomplished. It cost us 5 condors. Fortresses always cost us condors because of the slings. We killed the last of the Mage Corps, we took the fortress, and that is the last piece of infrastructure that Pythium owned. Growth, water gems, growth, luck, sloth, but no tax, and then 2 random attacks. So in Pandocrator's Legacy, we defeated a random attacking force of independence. In Giant Spine, a much larger force of Earth Elementals came in. By much larger, I mean in terms of the size of the unit, not how many there were. Came in and barely beat our PD. They all got knocked down to the size 4 variant. But they're there. This is all being caused by the Throne of Gaia being claimed. The Throne of Gaia being claimed buffs growth across the world, but it also leads to independent attacks by, forces of nature. So harpies, earth elementals, you name it. If it's aligned with nature, it's probably going to randomly attack you after he's claimed it. So thank Uruk for that one. And then we finished our fortress at Helmshire. So, with Pythium having split up, they're besieging Helmshire. I presume they sent their infantry here because they needed something to be able to crack it. they still won't be able to crack it in time. We still have a little bit of wall integrity, so they can't storm, and because of that, there'll be time for our relief force from the capital, which now includes 48 sacreds and 42 slaves, to make up the difference and clear them off. They might come over here, sure, but then they're increasingly getting themselves trapped and working their way deeper into the Empire, and they're deserting over time too. So eventually there'll be so few of them that we can just split forces and go to every province they could possibly attack and wipe them out. Meanwhile, we're just sending a small force to shadow the god at Tyrannia, assuming that it will probably move somewhere out this way, or it could double back again. I don't know. Either way, these forces are moving in to take the throne, and once they've taken the throne, they'll be available to deal with the Pythian problem. But for the moment, we're just consolidating. We're going to take a throne, we're going to take another water province, we're going to take a throne over here. We're going to focus on reclaiming this from Pythium first, and then we'll try and clean this stuff up over here. For the moment, we're good. So overall, not a super eventful turn for us. It's more mopping up. It's more sort of spreading out our borders to the maximal extent that this war has permitted us to do so, and setting up the infrastructure we need to make sure that Urmor doesn't, spread their dominion over us and kill us, now that they are just as expansive as us, possibly larger. And Calum, I would conclude, is also, despite having not killed anyone yet, probably larger and is clearly up in Asphodel's face if they're there, and that matches with what I've heard from Smokey the Carrion Bear. So we'll keep a good eye on all of this, and we'll also keep an eye on this sort of Ulmish, Machakan, Solarian front. One other set of diplomatic observations I wish to make, and they're all about this area. First observation. Uruk has moved a very significant army to the last component of the Manish Empire. This may put them on a collision course with Ulm if they try and occupy anything, because Ulm has previously occupied this stuff and was thrown off Man only because they underestimated how many troops they should leave there versus sending off for other things, and then got hit by a massive swarm attack, I believe. So I congratulated Man on that. That was a great showing. But we're not sure they'll be able to put it up again. Either way, I expect Man to be put under siege by Ulm again, but there is a danger that Uruk comes in and steals the glory. Bandar Log might also get involved, but Bandar Log is looking a little bit squished because they are clearly under attack by the elves of Vanheim, and that means Vanheim is also going with an early war. So Ulm has rushed Man, Urmor has rushed Ashdod, or rather Ashdod rushed Urmor and was then counter-rushed. Calum has just expanded like a mofo. I've killed Pythium in, well, apparently for this game, not record time, and he's also technically not dead yet. And Machaka is preparing an attack on Solaria. So, as subscribers of GC, we don't mess around. Even the Waters got into it with their massive hell war between these two, and the poor Atlantean frogs in the middle. So we don't mess around. We go to war early, it seems. So we'll see what happens to the world around us before we decide what our next role is. Whether, what direction we go in. We're going to see what happens diplomatically, and we're going to see what happens with our attempts to consolidate up. Catch you next turn. Okay, turn 18 of Yet Again Unto the Breach, and our cleanup campaign continues. So, first, let's go through the event list, and then I'll give you the state of play. So, enchantment, we finished enchantment 2, we're going to enchantment 3. Our research is absolutely horrible, by the way. I'm pretty sure we're still at, 47 per turn. Impressive. Okay, no magic sites found. Series of battles, which we'll come back to in a moment. Good event. 7 astral pearls. Excellent event. Very happy. 125 gold. Look, I'll take it given my paucity. And then we're going to have another arena battle. Great. Okay, battles. So, we moved up behind Helmshire. Behind Pythium, rather, and retook Helmshire. So we're sort of chasing and shadowing him at this point. We moved into Ashdod, and we took another Ashdodian province. We also took a number of independent provinces this turn. We took the Sacred Lake, which was Underwater Amber Clan. I think this is just a scout. Yep, this is more suicide. And we took the province of Bakar. And then Pythium split up. So Pythium moved a force back into the Scarce Hope Waste, and they moved their god to Tyrannia. So the Pythian god is here, the army is here, so they're still close enough to mutually support each other. but they're not in the same province, which is great. It means they can hound me 2 provinces at a time. But we're compensating for that by taking more land. Most notably, we have taken Bakar and Jebero, and Jebero was a throne, and Bakar was a throne. Bakar had some magical presence there, but we were able to take it out, so no problem there. So in terms of thrones, Throne of Might. Throne of Might is excellent for us because this just adds another +2 strength to our bless. So this will add a significant amount of damage output to our sacred. So we'll claim that immediately. Over here, it's the Throne of Ice, so it's worth water gems and cold resist. Nazcans are naturally cold resistant, so not a huge amount of impetus to stack cold resist. And also Ulm's getting pretty filthy about the fact that I've got this throne. So we may see a deal there to hand it over. His argument is basically people will panic if they see Nazca take 2 thrones at once. I kind of see the logic in that, but at the same time I have to take thrones eventually. So I'll persist with that negotiation and see where we go. But the point is, we're not giving this one up. We'll save money, we'll fort this when we can, and hold it, because that's going to increase the power of our sacreds by a significant amount. Great, okay. There was one other battle we saw this turn, and that was Ulm has moved on to man. And this gives us a chance to see the force that Ulm has assembled. At least one of the forces. So, it's a mixture. This looks like a mercenary band led by Pythian the Snake. Dominions has weird stuff going on. And then it's a big group of crossbows, a block of black plate infantry, and then some non-black plate ordinary guys and some guardians at the front. Against them, man's basically just got PD at this point, which means because we're aware of the fact, I don't think we've seen it, but we're aware of the fact the Manish army has previously been defeated, and this is Ulm moving back on to man's capital. The fact that we're seeing all of this iron darts and stuff means obviously there's no Evo 6 yet, so it's iron darts and magma bolts and things like that, but nonetheless, Ulmish armies are tough. And while he took 27 losses to 68 casualties, 22 of those 27 losses were mercenary militia, and I'm going to take the bet that he cares little for these guys or for these barbarians. Only one black plate died, and a lot of the killing was done by these 4 black knights and the priestsmith, so we'll watch that going forward. He'll have to move in additional forces if he wants to break that down. Also tellingly is the fact that Uruk has moved into the province next to the capital. So we'll be in touch with Ulm and see what's going on there, because that's interesting, as is the fact that this fort is under siege. Anyway, so for our immediate objectives, we have now completed our cleanup on the Western Front, and our objective is now going to be to come down and destroy the remaining Pythian forces. We've got a mage out here producing, they're going to produce a bunch of temples, which will form our defense when the Pythian Dominion drops. For the moment, I'm very happy to leave the Pythian Dominion. It saves us money and protects us from Ermol, but because we're not spreading it, it won't protect us forever, and we can't allow these forces to raid forever, despite the fact we're probably making a profit keeping their Dominion here for the cost of losing a province every turn. That's probably worth it for us, but still, we want to put them out of their misery eventually. So what we'll do is we'll start shifting these forces back over. We're assembling more in the capital, so we're summoning condors and recruiting sun guards and recruiting Inca and generally assembling more armies so that we can have more options as to where we hit. We're reclaiming this province with a full sacred stack in case he consolidates, and we're sending a smaller stack to Rania. If that's just his god, I expect a bunch of lances might actually hurt him on the charge, maybe inflict an affliction. I don't think his god will stay static. So, in reality, this is just me reclaiming this province as he moves somewhere else. We'll see what happens. We're bringing our sacreds back from underwater. They will help us clean up some of these independents around here and hopefully go into this water here. Ermol has warned us off this water in exchange for them being mostly cool about this, and the reality is I have to play cool with Ermol because I don't have the forces available to fight them at the moment. Nazca has a terrible matchup with the Ermorian Lawnmower Sacreds, so at the moment I've apologised to Facia and Shinuyama. They know that for the moment at least I don't have a viable answer. I don't have troops that survive the Lawnmower effect, and I don't have any magic at all that would make any jot of a difference against blessed Ermorian units. So I will continue to play nice with Smokey and Nosy, and hope that they do not destroy all the living of the world for the moment. But yeah, just generally consolidating forces. We've got recruitment happening. Incas in the capital. We're recruiting Hurons where we now can. So because we've got a little more money coming out of Pythium now, we've got greater ability to both recruit commanders in those forts, but also to start recruiting more of these Huron priests that are going to be our mainline battle mage later on, while we start getting slave production going up out in Pythium. And as you can see, we're recruiting relatively quickly. So much so that I have cut Lancer production, and I'm going to go over to using just slaves. We're sending one in the deathmatch. He won't win, but this is just a more creative suicide method, and I figure Participation Trophy, the Apu, no, I'm not sure if anyone will notice the name, but yeah, Participation Trophy, the Apu, will go win a Participation Trophy and die gloriously for Nazca. So, stock check, where are we at? Pythium is almost defeated. We should consolidate and kill them relatively soon. We're starting to establish a border with Ermor. That will take the form of a palisade here, which is under construction, and a line of temples along here, and a line of temples along here to hold back their dominion, and that will hopefully be the buffer that holds Ermor in place, while we adopt a live and let live approach until such time as I have appropriate tools to deal with the threat, because eventually he will come for me, or become so great a threat that everyone else will demand that I act, and reasonably so. So we're going to have to make sure that we're prepared for that. Other than that, we're negotiating and scouting around and trying to see where our next move will be. And we're observing to see whose wars come to a close and which new wars break out. At this stage, it looks like Vanheim will destroy Bandar Log, Ulm will destroy Man, and then Uruk is the real wild card. Does Uruk cause a problem with Ulm, and what is Ulm's response, and thus what is Nazca's involvement? Because with this front being right here and me bordering both, there's no way that I'm not at least somewhat likely to be drawn in. Anyway, that was turn 18. See you next turn.